Good morning, Olive Branch family, and welcome to our online service. My name is Jeremiah. I'm the Youth and Young Adults Pastor here at the Olive Branch, and we're hoping that you're enjoying your summer holidays. But our summer Sundays have started with a new series titled Waiting for When, and we launched that last Sunday, and today Kelly is going to be starting a talk on a title, Waiting for Your Dream. You don't want to miss out, so stay tuned. And before we go into that, our worship team is ready to lead you in song. So enjoy today's service, enjoy your Sunday, enjoy the summer vacation, and we hope you have an amazing day. God bless.
You are with me. What can separate us? You are for me. What can stand against us? Your plans for me are good. I know you hold my future and my hope. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail.
Thank you to the team for leading us and helping us to remember who God is and what he is all about. A couple of weeks ago, I was chatting with a friend of mine, and she was recounting her morning as she was getting ready for work and getting her son ready for school. And it was one of those mornings where you kind of reflect back on it and you're like, what just happened? You see, in the hurriedness of getting ready, she had accidentally unpeeled her son's hard-boiled egg. And he was very disappointed about this because that was his job. So to make up for her oversight, she suggested that he be in charge of cutting it fancy. And to her 6-year-old son, fancy means just cutting it into quarters. Well, he has never attempted it because that's supposed to be her job, and it didn't quite work out the way that mom normally does it. So it led to tears. This meant that my friend had to spend the rest of her time at home consoling her son and convincing him and encouraging him that he could in fact still eat his breakfast. Her son, when he woke up that morning, thought that things would go as normal, the way that the routine normally is, but it didn't. And it is sometimes a reaction that we see in kids, whether they're your own, their nieces or nephew, grandkids, or you've just been around them, that they have when they get disappointed. His routine was supposed to be the same. His mom was supposed to give him the egg, he was supposed to unpeel it, she was supposed to cut it fancy, and eating would commence. Mom doing his job and him not doing a successful job cutting it nicely was not in his morning plan. Now, even though we might consider ourselves mature adults or teens, if we are really honest with ourselves, sometimes we can have similar types of reactions. They might not look the same as my friend's son, but when we get disappointed because our plan, our vision, our dream did not come to fruition or gets interrupted, we can react in emotional ways. Peter, as a follower of Jesus, was known for his reactions and putting his foot in his mouth, as we say. When Peter first met Jesus, he was a fisherman, and fishermen were known for their hot tempers and their language. Because of the work they do, they were also known for their great survival skills and good work ethic. They were people of action, physical, and unafraid of others. When we read stories about Peter in the books of the Bible, specifically Matthew, we see these characteristics come out for the good and for the bad. When Jesus invited Peter and his brother Andrew to follow him, it says that they dropped everything to do so. They dropped their identities as fishermen and took up a new one, a follower of Jesus. Peter was one of Jesus' first disciples and became part of Jesus' inner circle along with James and John. He acted and was all in. Jesus said, "Come," and Peter went. Peter was also a natural-born leader and became the spokesman for the 12 disciples. It was even Peter who first correctly identified Jesus as the Messiah, the Son of the living God, a truth which God divinely revealed to Peter. Peter was unafraid to share the truth he knew. Despite following and trying to imitate Jesus, he was still rash at times and would speak or do things impulsively. For example, in Matthew chapter 16, verse 21 to 23, we read, "From that time on, Jesus began telling his followers that he must go to Jerusalem. He explained that the Jewish elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of the law would make him suffer many things. And he told them that he must be killed. Then, on the third day, he would be raised from the dead. Peter took Jesus aside and began to criticize him. Peter said, "God save you from those things, Lord. Those things will never happen to you." Then Jesus said to Peter, "Go away from me, Satan. You are not helping me. You don't care about the things of God. You care only about the things that men think are important." Peter and the others had understood that Jesus was the Son of the living God, but they didn't realize what that entailed. As Jesus started to explain what it meant for him to be the Messiah, it was clear it was opposite of what the disciples had expected, and Peter reacted. Peter even went so far to pull aside his leader, the one he just identified as the Son of the living God, and tried to tell him that it shouldn't happen. Jesus quickly corrected Peter and put him in his place, telling him that he was a stumbling block to himself. But I can almost imagine what Peter was thinking or what prompted his reaction. Maybe it was, "I dropped everything for this guy. Literally, I left my business, my fishing boats, my fishing nets, the accessories of my trade, my family, and now he's talking about how he has to suffer and go away?" Or, "He gave me a new identity as a fisher of men. I'm his follower, part of his inner circle. What is my identity if he is no longer here?" Or maybe, "I love this man. What do we do without him? How do we do all that we have been doing or what he wants us to do without him here as our coach and our mentor and our leader?" What Jesus spoke of was not what Peter wanted or envisioned. Peter couldn't comprehend why his friend, mentor, leader, teacher would need or want to suffer such a horrible death. In that moment, Peter couldn't see God's larger plan. He had been shown who Jesus was, but couldn't put it all together. Peter tried to impose his vision, his dream, on God's vision and Jesus' mission. Maybe he thought or hoped that there would be a better way to save mankind. He didn't necessarily see God's plan of forgiveness for everyone. He didn't see God's plan to dismantle the religious system that had been created. He didn't see God's plan to be with everyone at one time, not just in the temple or wherever Jesus was physically. He didn't see God's plan for us to be gathered here today. God's plan was bigger than anything Peter could conceive. Jesus' eventual suffering and death was a painful reality that the disciples had to face, but this had to happen. Like Peter, have you ever received information or news that altered the plan or vision you had for the day, for your education, for your career, for your family, or someone else that you care about? The reality is the story that we create and play out in our minds, or the plans we have for our future and the dreams we have, don't always turn out the way that we mapped them out. But, like Peter, maybe you have had the opportunity to see how those altar plans did play out. The plans got interrupted, but you were able to see how it all worked out after a few days, months, or years, and hopefully better than you were able to imagine it. It doesn't mean that the journey was easy, but you can look back and see God and what he has done, and how he has used that time to stretch you and to grow you and help strengthen you. You are now able to see what God was up to and how it all came together as you waited and journeyed through God's plan. In my own life, there have been a few plans that got altered, and I can now look back and see how God used those things to bring about something different. And because of my belief in God and that He is good and has a perfect plan for all of us, I trust it was better for me and others because He can see the whole picture. When I was about 14 years old, my parents discussed with my brothers and I about adopting another child. They felt as a family that we could offer more. We had enough to give to someone else. I think my only requirement was that it should be a girl, to balance out 2 girls, 2 boys. As we went through the process, we met Bina, and she was placed in our family when she was in grade 6. As a family, we just wanted to provide a home for a child that needed one, and I was fully ready to embrace her as my sister. This process was full of emotional ups and downs. And eventually, Bina's mother decided that she could and would raise Bina. As a young teen, I had started to imagine what my life would be like having a sister. And it was difficult to see her go back home. I was left asking, why did the plan have to change? Why did we have to go through this? Why did that dream need to be shattered? However, it was about a year after that my parents got contacted by our social worker, and there was another child, another girl, that was ready to be adopted. With timidity as a family, we said yes, that we would pursue this journey. Although we had experienced pain and plans derailed, we can now see how God put us in the right place to adopt my sister Selena. And now, all these years later, I get to invest in her 2 beautiful daughters, Sophia and Isabella. And even Sophia will be staying with me this next week as we host Camp Knights of North Castle. I couldn't have envisioned it then, but I am definitely grateful for the journey God brought us on. Another dream I had was being a teacher. But something that was added to that dream when I was young was to teach in low-income areas. I was able to work with kids and youth that were considered low income during my university years at the Scott Mission Camp. And it was then that dream got solidified. I really wanted to teach in high-need areas. Well, I am still here, and I'm actually teaching very locally, and even some of the kids that come to our youth program. Although I did try to move into that direction. After graduating, I went to Teachers College in Buffalo, and I even did a teaching practicum there to see what doors could be opened. I applied to Teach for America twice and didn't get through the process. I tried to apply to the Toronto District School Board, and I didn't even get an interview. All of this was disappointing, but I didn't feel at peace just to choose a random city and try to move there and find a school to teach at. Instead, the door that opened the quickest was in York Region. After a year of graduating Teachers College, I was interviewed and got a position and put on the supply list. My first day of supplying turned into a week of supplying, and during that week, I was encouraged to apply for a 2-month LTO, which was basically to take over another teacher's assignment until the end of the year, and I got that position. That position enabled me to not only teach in the mainstream, but also to teach in the alternative education program, which is a program for students that are credit deficient for a number of reasons, or whose life circumstances require them to do education differently. It was after teaching in this alt-ed program and a couple others at different schools that I realized that God had placed that dream, or used that dream of wanting to teach in the inner city, to Grow my heart so that I could teach and would want to teach youth that others might overlook or felt were too difficult or too intimidating to teach. In both cases, the plans were altered, but in hindsight, I can see there was purpose in those interruptions. What dreams were changed on you, and that you are now able to see how it all worked out or came together that you couldn't have seen or ever envisioned? Peter wrestled and struggled with the news that Jesus was to suffer and be killed when he first heard it. And there were some ups and downs between then and Jesus' death on the cross, especially when Peter denied that he even knew Jesus. But Peter was still there when Jesus appeared to the disciples after his death on the cross, and he was there at Jesus' ascension to heaven. Peter and the others finally understood what Jesus had been talking about all along. Peter was able to see all of that and became the spokesperson for the apostles, those that followed Jesus during his life here on earth. God used Peter to share God's love, the forgiveness made possible through Jesus with the whole world, Jew and non-Jew. Peter was able to live up to his identity, the purpose Jesus gave him, and be instrumental in founding Jesus' church. Peter got to see what God was up to and how it was supposed to be. He got to see his own progression from a rash, hot-headed fisherman to being a willing and obedient follower of Jesus, even to his death. But what about those times when plans are derailed or those dreams are not happening as we want, and we're waiting for those dreams to come to fruition, waiting to see how it all turns out? Like those first disciples who were slow to understand what God was up to, we shouldn't be surprised that it takes us a while to see what God is up to in our own lives. There are dreams that I still have for my life, dreams that I felt were impressed upon my heart at a young age. And despite pursuing them, despite knocking on doors, I am still waiting. How about you? What are you waiting for? What is the dream you have for your life, your family, your career that seems to just not be happening? How do we wait during the delay on the way to our dreams? Joyce Myers suggests that as we wait for our dreams to come about, we should put our expectation in God, maintain a good attitude, and remember God's dream for our life. So what does that look like? As we are waiting, we can be expectant of God. David wrote in the book of Psalms, I am counting on the Lord. Yes, I'm counting on him. I have put my hope in his word. Like David, we can expect God to keep and fulfill his promises. And this is where our hope should be. Not on our circumstances, not on others, not on ourselves, or what we hope will happen. Isaiah, a prophet in the Old Testament, wrote this message to the Israelites on behalf of God, and it says, "It is the same with my word. I send it out, and it always produces fruit. It will accomplish all that I want it to, and it will prosper everywhere I send it." God cannot be unfaithful to himself, and therefore we can rely on his promises that he gives us. We can rely on God and expect God to have our best interest in mind, to have our family's best interest in mind, and to have the best interest of all of those that we don't even know who our lives will impact. We can trust that God knows what he is doing and that he is leading us where we need to go, no matter how long those dreams take to be fulfilled. We can either trust ourselves or we can trust in God. Jeremiah, a prophet, wrote, "But blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They are like trees planted along the riverbank with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried about long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit." Expectantly waiting is not passive. We have to be focused, talking to God, and constantly putting our trust in him. In the process, as it was mentioned last week, we can expect God to build our hope, build our trust, and make our roots grow deep. In the waiting, we also need to keep our attitudes in check. God does not want us to be pretenders. We can and should acknowledge the painful and emotional aspects of waiting. It is okay to be disappointed and discouraged. We just can't stay there. David is a great example of someone in the Bible who shared with God his anguish about unmet requests, but kept his attitude in check. In one of his songs, he writes, "How long will you forget me, Lord? How long will you hide from me? Forever? How long must I worry? How long must I feel sad in my heart? How long will my enemy win over me? Lord, look at me. Answer me, my God. Tell me, or I will die. Otherwise, my enemy will say, I have won. Those against me will rejoice that I've been defeated." And then he writes, "I trust in your love. My heart is happy because you saved me. I sing to the Lord because he is taking care of me." Like David, we need to remember God is in our waiting. We need to remember that God is with us. In his letters to the Hebrews, Paul, who shared the good news of Jesus, wrote, "For God has said, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you." We need to remember that God is there and he is transforming things for his good and his purposes, which is a win for everyone. We need to remember that God can be trusted to give us what we need as we wait and as our dreams or our visions are being redirected. We can remember God's faithfulness. We started there first on purpose. Hopefully, you were able to identify a time when a dream was unmet or changed and how it came to fruition or turned out better than you imagined. Whether it was something small or big, we can express praise and gratitude for how God has answered our prayers, how he has helped redefine dreams or made them come about, or how he has provided for us as individuals, as a family, or for the communities that we are part of. Our time of waiting is not passive. We can be expectant. We can celebrate what he has already done, and we can keep our attitudes in check. During the waiting, we can also remember God's dreams for us. Jesus' dream for Peter was for Peter to follow him, and that is Jesus' dream for us as well. As a follower, he wants us to imitate him and not get out in front of him. He wants us to choose to trust his leading, trust that he can see the big picture, and for us to recognize our own limitations. For some of us, this is harder because we love to plan and take action. And I know this because this is me. I love creating a plan and executing the plan, and especially with working with teens and kids, it never really goes to action, but I am ready to fix the plan and keep moving forward. God's dream, though, is for us to let him lead our lives. To do that, we need to hold things loosely in our hands. When Peter was called, he was called to live apart from the culture of the day and dedicate his life to God. He had to surrender his life, all the tools of his trade, and place them into God's hands. In our waiting, we need to put ourselves in God's hands in all the ways that we think that things should happen. Proverbs 16 verse 9 says, "We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps." God's dream for us is that our desires, our dreams are in line with his. For that to happen, we must make sure our grip is not too tight on the things we have planned for ourselves and the steps it takes to make those dreams reality. And loosening our grip, we are able to fulfill God's dream of having a deeper relationship with us. In our society, we talk about taking time to work on our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health. And we need to give God, and specifically the Holy Spirit, permission to help us work on our spiritual health. It is often during the times of waiting that we are most teachable. We can ask for more wisdom and understanding. We can ask God to grow our character and to help us learn new things. We can allow God to use the delayed dream for our long-term benefit. And through all of this, we can experience God in new ways. No matter where you are on your journey of believing God or developing your relationship with Jesus, when we are in a holding pattern for our dreams, we can choose to wait well. In the waiting, it is a time where we can still be expectant, a time where we need to reflect on our attitudes, and a time where we can learn more about who God is and what dreams he has for our lives. As we sing this next song, think about what it is you are currently waiting for. Take the time to give it to God and ask him to provide for you and lead you during this time.
Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you've never failed me yet. I know the night won't last, your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. promise you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. 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 Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet.
As you allow God to remind you of that dream that He has placed on your heart, I encourage you not to lose faith. Don't lose hope. Choose to be active in your waiting. Talk to God, share your feelings about the waiting, and give Him your dream regularly and with persistence. Be courageous as you wait. Choose to be expectant. Choose to have a good attitude. Choose to remember what God's dreams are for your life and allow Him to transform you. Be encouraged that His will and dreams for you are better and more than you can even imagine. Let me pray for you. God, we know your plans are always perfect, but we might not always understand it when our plans get changed or our dreams get put on hold. But help us to trust you that you have the big picture in mind and know what is best for us. You are good. You are faithful. Help us to wait well and expectantly for you to do great things in us and through us. Amen. During this season of life, wait well. Wait courageously and stay active in your waiting. Enjoy your week.